Well, welcome to the second episode of the Jawa podcast. Name still pending.
Episode 2 of 2000, right?
Yeah, that's how many we're scheduled for.
Forever and ever, 100 years, Morty. 100 years, Morty.
We've got some good topics today. There's a lot of news.
Yeah, there was of course the Apple what is it? Their Windows Vista or Windows 7
Yeah,
reveal essentially.
I kind of am excited about it. It's
Yeah. Should we get into the podcast name submissions first?
Sure.
All right, you want to read off your favorites?
Oh yeah.
Essentially, I think what we're going to do is we're going to read off some of the ones that were submitted, and we're going to basically see like which one appears in the comments the most, and then maybe we'll go with that one.
So we got Jawa Wired, Jawa Jamboree, Jawa Labs, Jawa Visionary, Jawa Voice, Jawa Jibber Jabber, Let's Jawak About It, Jabbering with Jawa, Jawa's Tech Talk, Jawa Outpost, Jawa the Pod, The Jawa Job, Tales from the Jawa, which is just a little bit too much of a ripoff of the Disney Star Wars show they've been doing. The Jawa Journal.
That was a thing.
Yeah. And then some other names that we were looking at were Dual Channel, and the Aftermarket, and the Meta Shift. So we'll see what people think.
Dual Boot, because that was a good one, I thought.
Dual Boot, yeah. So we'll see what people think.
Everybody, let us know what you think in the comments, which one we should go with. But I'm leaning towards Dual Channel. I think that's my favorite one that you've listed off.
Yeah, I like that one too.
We gotta trademark that shit really quick.
Yeah. Someone's gonna steal it in the thriving tech podcast space.
Right? Yeah. We gotta stomp on that quickly.
Yeah. Do you want to get into our first topic? We've got
Yeah. So the first topic was Apple's essentially liquid glass reveal, right? It was the OS 26, right?
Yeah, I think they're moving it to a year-based naming system, like a lot of the other, like Samsung did with their phone releases. So makes sense. At least, of all the tech naming issues that we've had, I'm not going to complain about them having a numerical naming system that actually makes sense.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I mean, it does make sense. It's better than like OS Lion, where it's like I don't even know. Like trying to figure out which OS was in like which product stack was like so confusing because it's like, oh yeah, I'm on OS Panther. Oh, I'm on OS Lion. I'm on OS. What's one of the weird ones they had?
Oh, I'm just trying to think of all the different like Mac ones. It was all like cities and stuff.
Yeah, it was confusing to me because I never knew like what the current one was. Like my wife has a MacBook. I don't know what the heck the current one is. I can't keep track.
Yeah. The Android ones, back when they named them after desserts, at least it was alphabetical.
Yeah, they had like a system in place for that. So it was like ice cream sandwich or something.
Yeah, it was like fun, but like, you could track it pretty easily by just, going through the alphabet. I still had to sing it, but you got through it. So I don't hate the new numbering changes, but the reaction to the actual rollout of this like liquid glass change has been interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, I think we kind of said it earlier. It kind of reminds me of like the older style stuff though, like Windows. Was it 7 was the one that was or was it Vista?
I'm pretty sure Vista was the start of it because that was.
I think you're right. I think it was Vista had Arrow, right? Because wasn't that like the theme was Arrow, and like I feel like it was cool and it would have worked really well if the performance wasn't just awful. It's one of those things where it's like if high refresh rates had been a thing back then, it would have like been so much smoother looking.
Yeah.
But like I don't know. I don't hate it. I don't hate it. I really actually like that kind of smoother high res look.
Mm-hmm.
And with these high refresh monitors that we have nowadays with OLED, it's probably going to look really, really good.
Yeah. And so the thing I'm excited for, and I think this is the reason why Apple is like doing it, is they want to have a common operating system look between all their devices. So they're supposed to be like a little bit unifying between like their iPhone, iPad, MacBook, and then the Vision Pro, which I think the really exciting part of it is like you need to have some sort of clear operating system for any AR technology to make sense. And so I think they're trying to prime users to get ready for that with it on their phone and with it on their tablet and iPad
Right.
and MacBook. So they're used to that when they switch to the Vision Pro or the whatever the Apple glasses wind up being.
I don't know if they're gonna keep doing the Vision Pro. I feel like maybe I don't know how successful it really was. I feel like it was maybe a failure for what it was.
Mm-hmm.
But I honestly haven't looked at the numbers enough to tell. I think it was a really cool product with like a cool use case, but I don't think it really caught on.
I don't think the Vision Pro caught on, but I think it was meant to be like that cutting edge product, a little bit ahead of its time. And I think they
Yeah.
know that enough to not cut off future development, because like I'm looking at like Meta and Google right now and the developments they're doing towards like AR glasses. And I think, we're going to see that type of product from Apple, and they need to keep, having the Vision Pro lets them start developing their app ecosystem and their stuff before they go all in on like their AR, like glasses, whatever tech. And they like to move late typically. So it's
Right.
actually interesting that they went in so early with the Vision Pro to me.
Yeah, because they usually like to have things really smooth and refined before they actually release it. So it's, and like part of like their whole I don't want to say infrastructure, but like yeah, part of their whole branding is like making sure everything is as polished as possible when it releases.
Yeah, and they've actually been kind of like faltering on that lately with their AI features that were supposed to be in like an Apple Intelligence. All like a bunch of them are missing still, I think, from their like iPhone. Like they were promised a year ago now.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting to me because Google is just like so far ahead when it comes to like the AI integration stuff with Gemini and all that. Because Gemini is actually useful. Like I don't know if you ever use it.
Oh yeah,
I have a Pixel 9 Pro. I actually use it pretty often, and it's actually pretty useful. And I'll use it for like measurements or anything like that. Just hey, blah blah blah, tell me this, and it's usually pretty accurate. And I know my wife has an iPhone and everything like that, and she's very much into using AI stuff, but like the features just aren't there for her. I feel like maybe she's a little jealous sometimes because mine works so well.
we're definitely starting to see some like good integrated AI features. Like Gmail's got a really good one where it can do like summarizing emails, summarizing your inbox. And I know Apple promised that. I don't know if that one's been delivered yet, but I know a bunch of them, especially like the ones that interact with the GPT, are just are not there yet. So it'll be interesting to see if they can catch up on AI and if they're like going to catch up to on the VR AR front. I'm
Right.
excited for the like. I think the liquid glass means that they're looking forward like at the like VR and AR, coming hardware ecosystems. But I don't know if we're finally going to get primetime VR.
Yeah, I think we're still maybe not a decade, but I think we're a few years from that. The technology is definitely getting really good, um,
Yeah,
especially with like the glasses, which I think that's actually part of part of this conversation, right? Is we were going to talk a little bit about like the implications for VR.
yeah,
Did you want to talk hardware at all with that, or just
sure, yeah,
specific
yeah. I
OS?
mean,
Because like something that came up recently that I've been seeing, and like Linus Tech Tips covered it, is that what is it called? The something beyond. You know
oh,
what
the
I'm
big
talking
screen,
about?
yeah, the big screen beyond is like
Bigscreen
it's like the
Beyond.
best like desktop wired headset, and it's supposed to be really great.
That is wild to me. The two version just released like not too long ago, and just like how compact it is, how much technology is in that is just insane to me. And it's so cool. It's one of those things that's like if I ever had like the disposable income, I would be like get me one of those right now because like I'll be wearing that thing playing games as much as I could.
Yeah. The really like the thing that makes me think that we might be closer to these AR and VR devices are the like the I guess they're the AR glasses. I've got like the X Real ones that you hook up to your phone or your like handheld, and they can project like a 120-inch 1080p like high refresh rate display. And the display tech is good enough to use now, which I thought would have been like it's a really hard like part of it to crack. So now like we got to get the the inside out tracking and all the other stuff built into the glasses, but the fact that the display tech is there already is kind of crazy.
They are insanely good. So like I know you have the X Real Air. Is it the Airs you have or the Pros?
I have the Airs, yeah.
So I have I think the Viture, I don't know how to say the name. I have their pro version. And those things are insanely good. Like it's like 120, I think you said 120 inch, something like that screen basically, but they're OLED, so it's OLED. And it's like looking at a big OLED TV. And they work so well. It's only 1080p, but at the same time it's like, like that kind of technology and something so small is just nuts.
Yeah.
You can plug it into well, maybe not your Nintendo Switch. I think you have to have a in between for that. But like your PC or your laptop or your handheld, there's people who use like the virtual screens and like actually replace their work screens with one of those, which I can't do it, but
I want
it's
to.
really cool how that works.
The
Yeah,
portability of it's so appealing.
I tried and it was like I couldn't get into it. I couldn't get into like working on it. It just felt too weird. I've done it in like a coffee shop once or
I
twice because of like when I was traveling at like CES, I used it. But like I don't know if I could use it like at a desk. It's just kind of I don't know.
I'm ready for VR workspaces and stuff like that. Just I already have to wear glasses every day, right? I might as well have my computer built into them, and the convenience of having that with me everywhere is insanely appealing.
That was something really really appreciated about the XR glasses I have is that they have myopia adjustments, so you don't have to wear your glasses or you don't have to wear lenses with them. Because I tried to get I actually had some of the extra ones before, and I got the custom lenses for it, but they weren't right. I think the pupillary distance was off or something, but they were making me nauseous.
Yeah, I had ordered a pair of the custom lenses for mine, and they came in wrong. And I wound up taking an old pair of glasses and putting them on my belt sander and sanding them to the right shape, and then holding them with my drill press to make my own custom lenses for it, and it worked.
What about you like 3D print something? Honestly, so that's surprising.
It was before I got my printer, but yeah, it worked, and if you have a pair of old glasses, I will say it's a lot cheaper than paying the $60 for custom lenses or whatever it was.
Very true.
So
I think one of the other questions we had on this was what would it take for VR to move from niche gaming to everyday use? So that kind of ties into this. So we talked about the everyday use part. What do you think about like how VR is in gaming right now?
well, there's some game experiences where VR is the way to play outside of like the obvious VR titles, but anything simulator based, like I like some flight sim stuff, and it's so good with VR. Being able to look around during a dogfight and see it's so much better. And if you have a HOTA setup like the flight stick and all that stuff, or if you have a driving sim, the VR is so good for that. So I don't know when we're gonna see other gaming experiences like that.
I tried so hard to get into VR way back with I think I had the Quest. No, I had the Oculus or what did I have? Not the first gen Oculus. I think it was the second gen. It was the black one with the very long cable.
Oh yeah, the with the inside out tracking.
It was the Rift S or something.
Yeah, that's the Rift S, I think.
Yeah, I had that one, and like, oh man, I just couldn't get into it because of the cable restriction.
Quest
Like,
2 wireless VR.
Like, yeah, we're getting into the glasses where it's like wireless. It's so enticing to me, and I really want to get into it because I've seen some cool experiences. Like, I want to say it's that Sony game.
I don't know. That's
With Forbidden West, whatever.
Oh, it's got a VR mode.
Horizon Zero Dawn, yeah. Forbidden something or other. That experience looks really cool to me, and it's like one of those things. Like someday I'll play it.
You can get like on the used market a Quest 2. It's like well under $100.
Yeah,
you can be wireless.
Cheap. Even an Oculus, like a Rift S, like I think I had to sell mine on Jawa for like $130 because it was like they're just not worth anything anymore.
Yeah, even the Quest 3s, I'm starting to see you're at $200 to $300. So it's so cheap to get into VR. And I wonder, like, part of it is people sell their headsets after they use it for a little while, and so that's why it's just so cheap to get into. So it's definitely not a lasting experience for people. But it's so interesting to me that there's so many of them for so cheap.
Yeah. I think that was like one of our next talking points is it finally prime time for VR?
Yeah, I mean, if we start getting these, like, I'm going to call them consumer, like not for gamers, like for just regular people headsets, then I think we'll start seeing like popular games hit VR. Like we need the like esports title of VR that everyone can like barely run on their computer, and then it makes people upgrade their computer to be a little bit better. But for VR, where it'll run on your entry level VR headset, and then you'll wind up getting an enthusiast level one if you get really into it. That's I think the title that's missing.
You know what I think would really shake up the VR industry? If
What?
Nintendo Switch 2 got a VR add-on.
Oh, or just like slots into a headset? Would that be a?
It's just like a USB like plugs into your Switch 2 or something.
Oh,
Like
okay.
imagine, that they get like a VR headset and you play Mario in VR.
Yeah.
So like I think that would be like a huge like everybody would start getting into it because it's like, oh, it's Nintendo's doing it now.
The Virtual Boy 2 or whatever. The
Yeah, because they're always kind of like behind the curve with some of that stuff. So if like the last time they really had like something innovative was like the Wii U, or not the Wii U, the Wii really. The Wii U was too, but
it was
I'd
ahead
say
of
that
its
was like
time on the streaming stuff to your
handheld.
handheld.
Yeah, I'd
Yeah.
say that was like the first gaming handheld you could say, because you could technically play it in another room.
Yeah, like the first like the console based streaming ones for sure. It's no Nintendo's always a weird company with their what they would choose to like release. It's sometimes they're way ahead of the curve, like to the point it hurts them, and other times, their hardware has always been a little bit behind. Um, so it's
They're kind of like Apple in that they have their own ecosystem. I think we said this in the last podcast, but like that also kind of goes with like any kind of innovations or like any new stuff they do. It's like if Nintendo does something new, a lot of times you see the industry kind of follows it later. Like with the
yeah,
handheld stuff. So like with releasing the Switch, like you started seeing Sony made a handheld. Xbox is now making a handheld. So I mean, they're still setting trends, even though they are kind of behind the curve. They're still like one of those companies that like if they did a VR headset, I think it would make VR a lot more widely adopted.
yeah. It's interesting to me that the PlayStation VR didn't catch on more, but I think the title support was weak.
I think it was too
But
expensive. It was just too expensive because it was like you could literally get a Quest 2 or a Quest or whatever for the same price or less.
yeah,
And you, I mean, you could use it with more applications. You could use it standalone, or you could, well, maybe not the old ones, but like with like the newer ones, you could use them standalone, or you could use it with a PC, or So it was a
maybe
little bit more of an application there. Whereas the Sony one, it was like, I don't think you can use the PSVR with anything else. The headset.
I
I
think
think
the
it's
PSVR 2 is actually like they got an unlock for PCs. I heard.
'cause I remember the original one. I'm pretty sure like it was like locked just to PlayStation. Like you couldn't use it with anything else. Which like why lock it in like that? It's literally just a VR headset. But
Yeah, no, it's definitely not optimal, but I'm hoping we'll see. I don't know. I'm excited. Like, I like VR tech. I don't know if it's if it's ready yet, but I'm excited that at least it's still getting worked on. It wasn't it's not dead technology at least.
right, that kind of goes into like why we think it might not be ready still. And like I mean, cost is always like probably the determining factor with a lot of people. Is just it's so expensive. Like I think the
Yeah,
Quest like kind of brought those prices down a little bit because they're literally just saturating the market with devices. Um, but it's expensive. I mean, like the Beyond 2, I can never remember the damn name of it, but that thing is I think it's like $1,000. And that like doesn't even include all the customization you have to do because like they have to like custom fit it or something.
yeah. I think one of the big things about the Beyond One is you couldn't share it with anyone. Like it has this like custom gasket. The Beyond Two is supposed to have one that lets you like share the headset and then have one that is like optimized to you. So that's cool that they're at least doing that. But yeah, like the best VR experience was literally one that you couldn't share at all. It had no like no way to show other people it even versus like even when you can like have someone try on your VR headset and do it, it's not a particularly like social experience. And there's some games that make can get around that, like Acron and a couple others I've seen where it's like one player's in a VR headset and everyone else is playing on their phone or something. But there need to be better VR social games, like there's VR chat and stuff, but they're not actually VR games. They're just like games that can use VR, it feels like.
1 second, my wife calling me. Oh, married life, guys. All right. I had to learn how I was recording.
All good.
Yeah, what were we? The other thing that gets me is ergonomics. So like, I think that was a big obstacle for me with the VR headset is just it wasn't comfortable. And like I bought like the extra for I had the Quest 2, I think it was the most recent one I had, and I bought like the extra money headset thing that makes it more comfortable, and it was just like you had to wear headphones with it if you wanted the best experience, and that just adds another level of fatigue to your head because you're adding like another pound, you know. And I couldn't get on, but the newer stuff where it's literally just like there, and it's not
Yeah.
over your head or anything like that. That seems like it would be so much more comfortable because like it's that pressure that on the top of your head with like the Quest and all those other ones that always got me is I get headaches from it.
And then like the Vision Pro, that battery pack going off to the side, I think we'll see like a lot of that. Maybe a compute unit that you have to wear, and it's just that is how like the glasses ones work. So I'm curious if we'll see like we got all these mini PCs. Maybe we'll see one that has like a Strix Halo AMD CPU and a little like belt attachment box, and then you've got a VR headset that you're wearing. I think that'd be really sick.
Yeah, that would be really interesting to me.
But
Yeah, it's hard to find like just like headphones in general that like don't hurt your head.
oh, I
Like
know.
I have the ones you used to have, and it was too heavy. Like they're just
Yeah.
too much downward pressure. Because I mean they're like metal, so it's like of course they're heavy. The only ones that don't actually hurt my head are I have Steel Series Arctis Pro or whatever, and I don't know what it is about that the way they do that band, but that doesn't hurt my head like hardly at all.
Yeah, at some point, I've been wearing gaming headphones for so long. I just got
You have the
I
dent?
built up. I don't think I have the dent. I have too much hair to see the dent. But
You're gonna cut your hair one day. It's gonna be a big old. You have like a
wave.
gully back
Yeah.
there.
No, I'm hoping that I've been wearing headsets so long that my body's built up an immunity to the headphones. It's have to have it do it for long enough, and you'll build up against it. But yeah,
Headphone immunity.
reinforced skull for for headphones.
Right, that's going to be a medical condition in the future. Is like or was it headset head or something? Because people wearing VR headsets digging into their head or something.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that's going to be a problem. I mean, it can't get with how addicting games are already. Having the game just forced into your eyes that it's not going to be good.
You're gonna have OLED retention in your eyes from seeing the same screen over and over. You're gonna have a ghosting image in your eye of like a Counter-Strike terrorist.
The crosshair, yeah.
Yeah, crosshair. Oh yeah, that's a good one. The crosshair. I'm gonna have the virtual crosshair in the middle of my eye.
Yeah, have you seen there's programs people get that are like third-party crosshairs to help them like be better at games? People are gonna get like that.
Oh yeah, they're built into monitors, so it's only a matter of time before like somebody builds it into like some gunner glasses or something.
Yeah.
Gunner, don't take my idea.
Do you want to get into want to get into the used GPU prices?
Yeah. Is the market broken or is it stabilizing?
No, it's been really interesting to look. I was looking at this yesterday. How little prices have been changing on like especially like the 30 series. They've been so stable now for the 3070s, 3060 Ti's, like the 3080. They really haven't moved much on price. And the new releases, we keep expecting to knock them down in price, are just not materializing. I'm going to tie in the next topic a little bit, which is like the 3050 or sorry, not the 3050, the 5050 is rumored to be a card that is going to exist this year because there wasn't really a 4050 or anything like that. So hopefully we'll get a 5050 and that'll go into budget. But like that's like still supposed to be like a maybe under $200 card if people are lucky.
Oh, it's gonna be $200.
Yeah,
I'm calling it now. It's gonna be $199.99.
Yeah.
MSRP, but they won't make a FE card. It'll only be aftermarket.
Oh, of course. No. There's no way there'll be anything available for under $300 per month is my bet. It'll be a while. And then, looking at the 3050 that they put out, should anyone even buy the 5050? It's unlikely to, beat the performance of a used card that's $200 by any amount, or even be close to it. And those, multi-frame gen and ray tracing are all going to be like not particularly useful on that class of card.
Yeah, it's kind of wild that, I mean, I haven't actually updated our pricing on 30 series for a while because it's not necessary. Like the price is good for what you get compared to like the new releases, and that's part of the thing too. Is Daniel Owens actually did a recent video that was really good comparing like the old, I want to say it was a 3060 to the 5060, and just the VRAM limitation was like very abundantly clear until you started getting to like the native performance with like high resolutions. But like when it came to using like DLSS and all that kind of stuff, the VRAM was more important than anything else, and it was showing in like a lot of these benchmarks he was doing where the 3060 was beating a 5060. It was beating it at I want to say it was at higher resolutions at 1080p,
That's
and it
wild.
was beating it because of the VRAM. And
Yeah.
just like seeing a card like that's now what, 2 years old?
Yeah. No, no,
Yeah,
way
beating,
more than 2 years old. It's a
yeah, it's like
30,
3 years
30,
old, right?
30, no, 3060. That's 4 to 5 years old now.
Is it really? I'm
It's
like, my
gotta be.
concept of time with GPU
Oh,
release is so bad nowadays.
3060 release date. Sorry,
Oh,
time
you
is
gotta look. Yeah.
2021 February. So early
Okay, so
2021, 4 years.
4 years. Yeah. But it's very reminiscent of like the 1080 Ti. So like the performance gains we're seeing on cards nowadays, it's just on paper it's better, but that's because the paper always includes DLSS or
Yeah.
the those technologies that give you, as everybody says, fake frames. Um, yeah, it's very interesting to me that really the mid range is where a lot of people are probably going to see the most value because it's just, you can get a 3070 and it's still competitive today. You can get a 6700 XT and it's competitive today. And unfortunately, the prices are not going to go down because the market's just, it's
Oh
not getting
yeah.
better. It's
I
not, the options aren't getting better. It's, if anything, it's, you're getting more restricted in what you have to get the best performance because everybody's trying to force DLSS or was it FSR?
yeah. No, and like these old cards, they're just not moving. So like I bought a 3090 2 years ago and I sold it this morning for the same price I paid for it. It's the fact that these prices aren't moving is just, I haven't seen it like this before in the PC market. And it's, I think part of it is like the companies saw that they could just charge more for the
Yeah.
stuff, and they're just they've been just basically effectively increasing prices to the point where nothing is moving. So eventually it'll have to
Yeah.
change, but I hope, I assume it'll have to change eventually, but haven't reached that point yet.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we should answer the question, should users wait or sell now while the value is stable? And to me, I would say wait. If you have a higher end card, probably wait. If it's like a 3090, I would just keep that as long as you can because the VRAM is going to be so important.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to justify having a card with 8 gigs of VRAM if you want to play like high settings at anything over 1080p. So I would say if you have an older card that's like 8 gigs of VRAM, so 20 series, 30 series, if you can get a good deal on a card with at least 12 gigs of VRAM, I think that's worth trading it in or upgrading or selling, like something like that.
I,
If you're sitting at like a 3090 tier and you've got 24 gigs of VRAM, I believe it is, just
yeah.
stay there. Like
I
you're
think
you're still going to be able to play a lot of things comfortably at 4K if you really want to. You can still use DLSS if you want to. It's hard to justify selling those top end cards right now just because of that VRAM issue. So I
yeah.
mean, I one of my neighbors went from I think he went from a 3090 to a 4080, and I was just like, oh, I should have done that. Like, And he then went to a 5080 and he returned the 5080 because the performance was like so much the same.
Yeah. The one that I think the big swap is where people should be, if you're on like a 3060 Ti, I think it's not a bad time to go like look at maybe like a 3080 Ti for an upgrade. Like you can get a still decent bit for that 3060 Ti if you paid a reasonable price for it. You can get it. Like we're seeing some 3080 Ti's sub 500, and I think that's.
I think our price on him is 420. I can't remember. I think I can't remember due to nothing relevant to 420. But yeah, I would say sub 500 should be really attainable for a 3080 Ti. I mean, I know 3080s go for like 300 something.
Yeah, 300 to 400 for those.
You can probably get a 12 gig 3080 for a decent price if you can find one.
Yeah. So I think there's some room for the right cards if you want to like upgrade a little bit, get a little bit, better performance. There's a pretty big difference in some of those, even within the 3060 to the, to the 3080 Ti. That's a huge leap. But they're like, the new stuff is just so crazy. And like the fact that we're talking about like comparing like that the jump is from a 5080 to a 5090 is $1,000 jump. It already doubles in price is wild. And it feels like there's like, it's such weird increments of price that we've got in the current market.
Right. I guess that's a good segue to the 5050 rumors, because you mentioned it earlier, but like going to budget. So we talked about the high end and like what we recommend there. Like what about the budget stuff? So we're hearing was a 5050 supposedly going to have the same, not same VRAM, but same type of VRAM as a 4070.
Yeah.
Looking at your notes. Yeah. Well, 20 gigabyte per second GDDR6. So essentially the same RAM as a 46 or 4070.
Yeah. And that's, for 1080p, it's fine. And I don't think the 5050 is targeting anything other than that.
Right.
But at some point, like, I don't know. The 5060 is I think like the first. I always think of the 60 series cards as the mainstream cards, and the 5060s are the first mainstream cards that I'd say would like be decent for 1440p, with like the 5060 Ti being probably great for a high refresh rate, like not AAA titles, but like middle performance titles. You could do 1440p high refresh rate on that pretty easily without having to upscale it all the way.
And I remember the 50 series, like the old 50 series, like the 1050 used to be like so bad. Bad. Now they're like serviceable. Like the 3050 8 gig is actually fairly okay.
Performance wise, yeah, but the price to performance on those have been atrocious. Like that's the thing about the 1050 and the 1050 Ti is their price to performance wasn't like bad. You could get into like. And like the 1050 Ti was that card that could run any game poorly, but you could run any game.
You can still run it though, yeah.
Yeah, and that was I think like a big deal of like, I don't know. I needed to look at the launch price for the 1050 Ti.
Yeah, I remember the 16 series was like a very very minimal gain over the Ti, the 1650 or 1050 Ti.
1050 Ti launched for 139. It says, which is wild to think about now, because like we're talking about the 5050 going for 200 for the base non-Ti version. That's how much it's changed. And the 1060
how much VRAM do you think they're going to give it?
The 5050, I bet 6 gigs. I don't think
I was gonna say probably 6. I think they know 4 is too little now, because I want to say it was the 1650 had 4 gigs, right? And there was a 1650 Super could have up to 6. Or was it 4 as well?
1650, 4 gig, 1660, 6 gigs.
What about the 50 Super? Was that 4 gigs as well?
Which one? The 1650 was Super. Sorry, was 4 gigs, yeah.
Okay. I couldn't remember if they put an extra couple gigs or something on the 1650 Super. Because I know some of the Super cards, they put a couple extra gigs of VRAM on some of them.
That was the 2060 Super. That was an 8 gig card versus the 2060 with a 6 gig.
That's right. Okay, that's right. Okay. Because there was that one, and then I feel like there was one more that they added a couple gigs of VRAM on. I might be thinking AMD though.
I'm not. I don't know any of the other ones, but I don't know all the models. But I do know that that they have done it with the 2060, and then the 1060 what they had the 3 gig and the 6 gig. Now we've got
Yes.
10, the 5060 8 gig and 16 gig, or it's at least they're giving us more, but not. It's the fact that we're still getting those lower VRAM amounts because the 3 gig
It's such a large
1060.
increase in price just for that 8 gigs of VRAM too.
Yeah, it's really a shame. And the 1060 launched for 250, and there were we're getting the what's it called, this 5060s, and they're price. It's not as bad as some of the other price creep, especially when you look at the 80 class cards, but it's gaming is a more expensive hobby than it used to be. It feels like.
Yeah, it kind of, whenever I think of like the newer tiers and how they're doing like the VRAM as like a tier, it's very much like a TI versus a base model card now. So it's like, it's almost like the TI is actually the TI plus, except it can have 8 gigs of VRAM.
Don't give them any naming ideas.
Nah, they already did the Super. I think they're sticking with Super on some stuff. So
Don't forget TI Super. They've got a.
That's true. They did the TI Super, so now it'll be like the TI Super Best or something.
Yeah.
They'll go full force on it.
No, so I don't know. I'm hoping we'll get some good cards, and I hope I'm if we get a 50/50 for $150, what, I'll apologize to NVIDIA for everything I've ever said. But
not everything, just some of it.
Yeah,
I'm curious to see when they do release that, how many starter builds we start seeing on Jawa with that card. Because if you look right now, starter builds are typically what, like 20 series?
Yeah, I'd say it's even 20. We see a lot of AMD in starter builds, I'd say too.
That's actually true. Yeah, a lot of 5700 XTs. That's very, very popular. That's the reason we still take it in the GPU program, is because it sells so well. So like the 5700 XT is just like, people have them because miners used them. So they're very easy to get and resell because it's still a great 1080p card with 8 gigs of VRAM.
Yeah, what I picture when you say an entry level build on Java is typically like an RX 6600. That's what I see like a lot of too. I should pull the numbers and I have an exact count, but of what's selling in those.
One, so I'll tell you how quickly it sells.
Yeah, no, it's and it's been a while since we've seen new cards go into budget builds on Java, and there's we see new cards in the mid-range builds. It makes sense. You can get a 5060 and put it in a mid-range build and sell it, and the builder can make money, and the buyer can get a good deal compared to a pre-built. But for budget builds, it's actually so bad a price to performance decision to go new, and that's
right. Yeah, and
so long.
I think we'll probably only see it on like the bigger actual businesses. So one of the actual system integrators on site is NSX Gaming. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some of their builds pop up, but I don't know if mainstream, if people will be picking up on the flips and stuff, because like you said, it's just you don't commonly see people buying a new card for a flip, because it's just the cost of entry is just too much. Back in the day, it was 100 something bucks for a 1050. So it was it was reasonable. It was something somebody would put in an Optiplex or something like that. But now it's you're not going to see many budget builds with a card that's over $100.
Yeah. So it'll be an interesting time. Do you want to I don't know if we want to look at this topic even, but it was looking at the Gigabyte launched an AI workstation, but they're marketing it as a gaming rig. It's well, I'm tired of all the AI branding.
I don't want to hear about it, honestly, because one of your discussion prompts on it is who is it for, and really, who is it for? Who is it for?
Gamers who want the word AI slapped on their gaming PC.
Because I don't think any gamers are going to buy it. I mean, it's a Threadripper Pro, but people know that Threadripper isn't for gaming anymore. People know. It's not like before there would have been some confusion because people are like, well, Threadripper good. Many core go vroom. But then everybody else started getting many cores. You get a 16 core CPU on the desktop side without without having to get Threadripper. So now it's like many core not unattainable.
Yeah.
We want many core go fast though.
And if at some
Threadripper
point,
slow, many core too slow.
I thought the new Threadripper thing is it actually was supposed to have slightly faster cores that could game. I could be remembering that wrong, but
I think you're right, but I don't remember the whole press release on it.
still probably not worth it for your average gamer. No way.
I had a Threadripper at one point for my server, and that was because I was running VMs on it. And now it's like the cost benefit to that is like I could do an older 3900X and pretty much perform the same. I would have less PCIe lanes, but I'm not running 3 gaming PCs as VMs anymore. Like before, it was an experiment more than anything.
No, I've got my NAS is running on a 5950X, and that's great because I can have the it's an old when I was my gaming chip that was a great CPU, but now since it's got so many cores, it makes a great server that can also run like my Minecraft server and any of my other like projects that come up. It's got so many cores, so I'm glad consumer chips are getting more cores because it makes repurposing them better.
We can essentially change this topic to like, why am I tired of AI? I'm tired of it. I'm tired of seeing it. AMD with their AI HX 370 and AI, and like the AI part of it is like so minimal and like not really a selling point whatsoever.
Yeah, like I don't mind AI as a product feature, but it's not a hardware feature for the most part. It's not ready for that. It's like people, the AI sticker on the laptops that does nothing right now. Copilot just stealing your privacy. It's not.
What's interesting to me that we have AI technologies like DLSS and FSR and all that. If they're AI technologies, why don't they use the NPU, or do they?
I don't know.
Shouldn't they leverage that? It's like if we're pushing AI so hard, why don't the AI technologies use that to process their workload? Maybe they do, and I'm just not aware of it.
I thought that's what the NVIDIA cards did. That's why DLSS was part like locked down versus the like FSR one, which didn't have dedicated hardware. I thought that was the difference, but I'm not.
I'm talking about CPUs. I'm talking about specifically like CPUs. Like why there's these technologies that like why don't they offload that onto that process instead of having to have dedicated cores for that on like the NVIDIA cards and everything like that. It's like if every chip now has like NPUs and stuff, why aren't they offloading stuff onto that process? Because like what even uses those right now?
Yeah,
I'd be interested to see like a video from like a big company or like a big media like Linus Tech Tips or somebody where they like actually go like, what is the load on the NP, or like measuring the load or putting a load on it and seeing what it's doing. What's the difference on like a chip that has it versus that doesn't?
And my current understanding is that it should give you better, like the place it really matters is like a laptops where you don't have operating like an AI task might take a lot of battery life to brute force it on the CPU, but having the AI dedicated processor lets it run those AI tasks without eating up your whole battery. So I think that's the main use case, but it's still, I'm not sure either.
I can contest that because my laptop that I'm recording this on right now, the Asus ZenBook Duo, I have the first gen one, and I believe it's got an NPU. But if I run ChatGPT or I run some kind of AI thing, it chugs like so bad. So I'd be curious to see if I can see if like the NPU is even being utilized, because like I feel like it's not, because it takes up so much of my CPU process. It's just wild how much it slows down.
Huh. Yeah, I'd be interested to see someone do a deep dive.
Could be doing it wrong. Could be user error.
You're holding it wrong, It's
I only have one of the NPUs enabled or something goofy. Some Microsoft person will be like, you didn't enable it in software, or you don't have the right driver.
Half the reason Apple has the market share they do is they have it turned on. That's the
right
for just everything. We don't have to try to guess and figure out if our laptop has it turned on. I had Thunderbolt on my Samsung laptop would not work in Windows 11. I had to go into firmware and flip a switch so it would work. It was just small stuff like that is so much friction, and there was no documentation on it. I wound up making a Reddit post for that model, so the next person that had that issue can figure it out what it is without having to dig through 10 pages of documentation.
Oh my god! Not surprising.
Yeah. Do you want to get into our next?
Tired of talking about AI. Tired of it.
Our topic of being tired of AI. We're tired of it. Shall we look at our?
Yeah. So we're gonna move into our Java specific topics. Although, I do want to make one game recommendation.
Recommendation of the day.
Use that in before we go, because I do want that to be a weekly thing of like, let me recommend a game for you. I'm sure everybody has been aware of Space Marine 2, but the original Space Marine game is actually pretty decent. And I'm not going to recommend the Mastercrafted edition though. I think that is awful, and I would not advise people play it. If you have it on Game Pass, obviously do that because it's free because you have to have Game Pass. But the original Space Marine game, if you can get it on like GOG or Steam or something like that on sale, don't pay full price for it. For the love of God, don't pay $40 for that game. I would recommend that game. It's fun. It's good. The graphics are actually pretty decent and hold up. It's honestly not that different from the Mastercrafted edition. Like that was a cash grab. That's pure cash grab. Like, if anything, the performance is just terrible on it. And like I was playing it on my handheld, and it was just struggling. Shouldn't have been either, because I could play Space Marine 2 just fine. So the fact that an older game doesn't run as well is kind of concerning. Yeah, I could play Space Marine 2 on a handheld. Sure, I'm using frame gen, but still, it's like even without frame gen, I can still get like 30 FPS. But like the original Space Marine Mastercrafted edition is just I think they have some optimization issues. Hopefully, it gets patched and fixed. But yeah, I would recommend the original Space Marine game. I think it's great. Story's great. It gives you some background if you played Space Marine 2 onto how we actually got into that situation. So yeah, that's my recommendation for the week.
I need to get into it. I love the Warhammer lore. I need to. I get so many like reels on it on Instagram. I haven't picked up. I need to get into it.
It is a controller game, though. I feel like if you're not using a controller for that game, then you're not getting the best experience. I think it's playable, but I think you really need to use a controller to get the best experience on like Space Marine 2.
Maybe I'll put it on my handheld backlog of games. Got some stuff for that. I've got my little piece of gaming news this week is something I'm very excited about. League. Okay, so I am a League player, as you know. League is a horrible game. That's the main thing. The main mode is just awful. And they had put out this game mode called Arenas that was actually fun to play. And they kept doing it as like a limited time release. Like, oh, we'll have it for 3 months, and then we'll take it away for a while, 3 months. And then they had just taken it away a month ago. And, they hadn't announced a plan to bring it back like they had in the past. And apparently the demand for them to bring it back was so high this time that they brought it back for a whole year, and they might extend that indefinitely. And I'm very excited about this because I racked up 400 games of Arenas from January to now in the year. So I'm very glad that they brought it back. And it feels like a big community win because it was, people were begging for Riot to not take it away. So I'm unfortunately, me going into a backlog of other games has been delayed because they brought this back.
Oh my God, he's never gonna get out of League. Somebody help this man.
It fixes all the issues. You only have one teammate instead of 4, and the other 4 people are the issue in League. So it helps. And that's my piece of gaming news before we get into the Java topics.
Let's get into the Java topic. I think it was how we pick featured listings and how you can get one. And I'm gonna leave this in your capable hands because you are the listing QA, so you do a lot of the tagging and everything like that for listings. Just in case anybody's ever been curious, who's tagging your listings? It is Mr. Thomas here.
Thank you. No, so the biggest, we touched on this last week, but the biggest thing to improve your listing chance of getting sold, just like everything else, is your photos. If you have good photos, you're way more likely for me to get a tag. The other thing that really helps is getting verified. Verified sellers get tagged way more. I prioritize tagging their listings just because I know they're going to have a higher quality of listing. They're more experienced. It's it's a lot safer of a recommendation for me to make, because every tag is essentially a recommendation from me of that listing. And so I do look through the listings to make sure that they're like, good photos, good specs for the, we've got 3 different price categories for tags. We've got under 750, 750 to 1,500, and then over 1,500. And there's, the main requirements for each one is basically just a reasonable price to performance. And then the one requirement that does disqualify a lot of listings is also at the pro, for over 1,500, you just have to have 8 cores. And for over 750, you just have to have 6 cores. You can't really call it a pro gaming PC if you have less than 8 cores. When a PS5 for 500 has 8.
Very true. I mean, yeah, if you're trying to pitch a quad core from 2018, it's probably not going to get the pro gamer tag.
Yeah.
It's just quad core is just not as good as like the stuff nowadays. I mean, I feel like 6 cores is kind of a minimum for like a mid-range build.
Exactly. And for the other thing that gets a lot of people is they'll try to be a little cheeky with their titles. They'll say like i7 and in the title, and then not say which i7. And I'll look, and if you have a modern i7, I'll leave it up. I'll tag it as is. But if you have an i7 and I look at the comments and it's a 7700 or something,
it's an i7 920 or something, like,
yeah, it doesn't.
It was like first gen.
It doesn't matter if even in the value category where that might be an okay value for what you're paying. If you've got the i7 without saying what it is in the title, I'm not tagging that just because it feels so misleading to people.
It's disingenuous. It's like,
yeah,
you're trying to piggyback on the idea of like people thinking an i7 that is, because it's a higher tier, that it's a higher quality CPU, but it's like 20 years old or something. Don't do that. Don't do that, people.
And if you say, and like I said, there's nothing wrong with that hardware. If they have it in the description and they're saying what it is, I'll tag it, and you can sell it. There's nothing wrong with selling old hardware, but trying to mislead people into tricking them into buying old hardware is just, even if it's technically, you're not lying to them because you have it somewhere later in the description, it's still just not going to get a tag at least.
And kind of as Thomas said, when it comes to tagging, like, work towards being a verified seller. And the reason that we prioritize verified sellers, because again, it like getting verified has to have a benefit, and part of that is visibility. So having the tag, having verified seller on your profile, things like that, it matters, and it helps with sales. And obviously we want to prioritize those sellers that we know are going to be constantly on the platform and selling on the platform more than somebody who's just coming in and selling a one-time PC deal.
Yeah.
You want to prioritize the people that are actually going to be performing on your platform and selling on your platform. If you're like a one-time seller, it's probably not going to get tagged unless it's like a super good deal.
Oh yeah, I mean, if they have a standout deal and a standout photos, I'll still tag it. It's just the bar, you're way more likely to get tagged when you're verified, just because I will filter in our admin and I'll look through for all verified seller listings. I'll look through each one, so you get like guaranteed, a screening essentially like that when I'm tagging the listing. So it does help. We could talk a little bit about how you get verified. That was our next topic actually. Anyway.
Do you want to go through the criteria nowadays?
Yeah, so
it hasn't changed in the last 6 months.
No, so the criteria I believe is now 7 completed sales and 3 reviews. So and those reviews have to have an average of like 4.5 stars to get verified. So you have to be consistently doing well, getting buyers to review you and be happy about it too. It's really easy to get people to review you when you suck at listing, but we got to have quality sellers. And then that point they get their ID verified after we review their seller profile, make sure there's nothing, no issues they've had, all that stuff, and they can get verified. Which, get some access to the person getting tagged more and the visibility and a whole bunch of other stuff that we do. Build competitions, all that stuff.
For anybody curious, the verified process is through Stripe. We don't retain any of your data when it comes to like your ID and stuff like that. Like that's a common misconception with sign up is people think that like we retain your social. We don't. We don't retain your social because again, we're not processing the payment. Stripe is. So this is the same thing with payouts. Stripe is processing the payout. So it has to be reported to the IRS. And that's why they need your social. So I see people too. I guess I'll go into like a little seller rant here for people is like people sign up and think, I need to have a business. No, you don't. We actually have an FAQ page that gives you some important information on like how you could define yourself if you're not a business. So because essentially you're a sole proprietor. If you're selling one time, you're still a sole proprietor by definition. But you can for like it'll ask like your website on Stripe. You can literally just list your Jawa store page. So you can just list your Jawa profile. That is technically your website for the sake of selling on Jawa. But there's a lot of people that start the sign up process and they get spooked by seeing like, oh, it's requiring your social. That is not a Jawa requirement. That is a IRS requirement, and we can't get around it. You will experience the same thing on Facebook Marketplace, on eBay, any marketplace. If you're accepting an online payment and that platform has to pay you for it, you're gonna be required to provide your social, and that is, I think, as of 2023.
I think
I
so.
can't
That's
remember
when
when they actually changed it, but it's an IRS guideline around marketplace sales, so nobody can get around it. You know, I've had people say, "Oh, they didn't ask for me on Facebook Marketplace." That's because you're not shipping. You're not
selling.
accepting the payment through Facebook because you're probably going to take a cash payment.
And if you report that on your taxes, you should be doing that. Everyone we know, everyone reports their sales locally to the IRS. I'm sure. Of course,
yes,
yeah.
I report all cash payments I receive to the IRS.
As do I. I'm very thorough in my accounting.
Tips as well. Yes.
Yeah. Oh well, no, the tips are you don't have to report them anymore. That got signed. We gotta.
But yeah, just so anybody to clear up any confusion that anybody ever has, if they were like, if they wanted to sell on Jawa and they hit that roadblock and like, I don't want to provide my social. It's a requirement. It's not us that's requiring it. It is an actual IRS requirement, and nobody can get around it. So don't get mad at us. We don't even have access to your social. Like we don't retain any of that knowledge. We don't retain your credit cards, anything like that. That is all on Stripe. And if you ever feel uncomfortable about Stripe, but you still make purchases on Amazon, guess what? You're still using Stripe. Amazon, all their payments are processed by Stripe, except with some exceptions with like Amazon Pay. But I think that might still be through Stripe. So if anybody's ever had that uncertainty of like, oh, I don't want Stripe having my data, blah, 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 they probably already have your data if you've used Amazon. So
might as well sign up for Jawa, if you bought anything.
I will sign up for Jawa, yeah. It's like, because any marketplace is going to require that information from you. Unfortunately, there's just no way around it if you're going to do a sale online. If you're doing a sale offline with cash, again, I can't tell you that you have to report that to the IRS, but you're supposed to.
Do you want to get into the GPU trading program? We've got
sure. What do we do?
Now that we've frustrated all the IRS agents.
Yeah, I didn't actually read this yet. So how our trading program works and how to maximize your payout. Okay. So yeah, we actually do have a pretty streamlined process for like how to get an offer on your card. It's on our homepage. You can see it. I believe it's sell to Jawa if you go in the URL as well. But what's the thing? When to trade in versus manually. So I mean, if you want to get the most money for your card and you don't care about how long it takes, it's best to list your card yourself. Like that could be the difference of getting $450 versus $350. It's a convenience thing. A lot of people that trade in their GPU, the reason that they're using our program is it's more convenient, and they value their time more than an extra $50 or an extra $100. But if you absolutely want to get the most money for your card, it's best to just list it on Jawa. If you're not having success listing it on Jawa, then maybe consider using our trade-in program, or even trying to sell it locally. Now, I'm not going to tell people not to try and sell your card on other sites. It's your right as a consumer. You should do whatever gets you the most money. But if you value your time the most,
We're
our
probably
trade-in
we're
program
the
is pretty seamless. Oh, what's that?
yeah. No, we're definitely the fastest. I've seen, there's other trade-in program, but it's like you get like Newegg that has one, and you get Newegg credit back.
Yeah, you have to. Well, you have to make a purchase on their site as part of the trade-in, unless
uh,
they've changed it. But
so
you
you can't.
actually have to. So if you're doing Newegg's trade-in program, you add your trade-in to the cart, and then you add whatever you're going to buy to the cart, and it has to be something that you can trade in for.
And I
It's the
saw
same with
Micro
like
Center has
Best
one
Buy
too.
or yeah, or any other site. It's
Well,
like it has to be an item they accept, and you have to purchase something on their site. So with us, we give you straight cash through PayPal. Um, trying to think of the only thing there to keep in mind is if you have a PayPal business account, there will be fees taken out. We can't avoid
mm,
that. It's because if you're a business account, you can't accept payments like a normal person would. It's essentially a transaction every time you take a payment, so it's got fees associated with it. We can't avoid that. Nothing we can do about that.
yeah.
Um, you are also required to report these sales to the IRS. For anybody that was not aware, if you meet your state's thresholds, PayPal at the end of the year will give you a essentially a tax form saying that you received X amount of payments from whoever, whether it's Jawa or somebody else. Keep that in mind. Just because it's family and friends does not make you tax exempt. You still have to report that if it's within your state's guidelines. So again, it's very much like state guidelines matter. Federal guidelines matter too, but state is kind of the more important one, and what determines if you actually get a 1099 from PayPal. Let's see, what else do we have? What helps boost your quote?
It,
Uh, well, that's tricky because we don't actually give more if you have the packaging. Um, we do occasionally run promos though, so that is something to look out for. We will occasionally run promos where we might offer you an extra $10, $20, something like that for your trade-in. And I believe we have a code where if you purchase a card on Jawa and you go to trade in, you can get extra value on top of that. I
nice.
think
So
it's
the
if it's not active, I'll reactivate it. But yeah, there should be a code like if you purchased a card on Jawa, um, you should. I will make sure it works still, but you should get an email um, not long after you receive your card saying like, hey, if you have something to trade in, that is one of the items that we trade in, you can use this code and get an extra discount. Or not extra
nice,
discount, extra value added onto your trade-in. I think it's
nice.
usually like $10 or $15 or something like that. But that is something to keep in mind if you are going to purchase on Jawa. That's a good way to get a little extra boost to your trade-in value.
And that way you can have your new card before you ever try to sell your old one. It's quite nice.
That too, yeah. So like we don't send the code until you actually receive the card. So that way you're happy with it and everything like that. I'll have to check on that. I'm pretty sure it's active, but I don't want to like. It'll be active by the time that people see this.
We'll
So
bring the promo back if not. Sounds like
yeah, if not, I'll activate it because it's probably just a me thing.
cool. Okay.
What else did we have? How does the GPU program help lower upgrade costs? I mean, that's an easy one. Like the amount of cards that we put on the market, it's just Jawa is the best place. And I'm like saying this confidently. We are the best place to get a used card. Like it's better than eBay, it's better than Newegg because I think they have a refurb program now. It's just better because like you're dealing with our store, so you're dealing with me and one other person. If you have an issue, you raise it up to us. You're not going through an AI chatbot, something like that. Like we are receiving it, we are reading it, and we will make sure that you're taken care of. So we've had that in the past. We've had like somebody received a card and it didn't work. It happens. Stuff happens in transit. We do test every card, but again, sometimes it's just the luck of the draw. Sometimes we get the one. Maybe it doesn't work for you, but then you send it back and it works. It works for us. Sometimes it's hardware issues. Sometimes it's compatibility issues. But we always make sure you're taken care of. And you're not jumping through hoops like with eBay or Newegg or anybody like that. I price our stuff very competitively. So like you'll see, I think you can get a 3060 for like under $200 most of the time. We do occasionally accept offers. So you can always message our store and be like, hey, would you sell me this for this? We might say no, but we might also say yes. So It's worth trying.
There's a make
But
an
I mean,
offer button too that has that
yeah,
you can submit an offer, and there should be like a minimum range. So if you try to submit an outrageous offer, it'll tell you that no, we're not even gonna look at that.
as a
But
general guideline, we don't usually accept offers within the first 24 hours of listing a card, and that's just because we just listed it. Like we want to give everybody an equal opportunity to get a card. So by just listing it and not accepting offers, there's a little cooldown period. If that card's still up after 24 hours, send us an offer. You never know.
yeah, and if you're trying to buy a note, we're doing drops on Mondays now. That's our new timeline for that. So
okay. I didn't know if we actually had confirmed that yet, but
yeah,
Monday. So that's when we typically do drops. That gives us plenty of opportunity to ship through the week. Just so everybody's aware, we do ship within 3 business days per the Jawa policies. Your tracking might not update immediately. It's not on us. That's on USPS. They're slow. But everything that we ship is within 3 business days. So we're pretty adamant about getting things out on time.
yeah, very. It's the Java GPU program. It's like such a easy way to get a GPU. Like you can definitely get a better deal if you like scrounge Facebook Marketplace for something. But the thing that like and that can take days. It's one thing about valuing your time. It's the most consistent way to get GPUs at good prices versus I've waited weeks trying to get something on Facebook that never materialized.
And we get some interesting cards too. Like we I've got one card that it's kind of rare, but maybe I'll list it next week. You never know. But we get some of those cards where it's like a limited edition, and we might list it. So like we've had like the Millennium Editions 970s before. I think it was like the gold one from MSI. We get some interesting stuff in, and like it's stuff that like if it was listed on eBay, it would be some outrageous price because it's like limited edition. But we just list it for what market value is, like what a 970 costs. We're not listing it as a special 970. We've listed Titan XP cards, like the Star Wars ones, and we're not charging something outrageous for it. It's just a Titan XP to us. So yeah, we might hold some very special cards to do like a giveaway or something with at some point. But
one might fall into our workstation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm waiting for us to get if we get an Avatar card in, I'm gonna lose it. If we ever get one of those Avatar, I think it was a 6900 XT, something like that. But I'll sell it for what we sell every other card for.
After it's done its time in your workstation for a bit.
No, I'm like purely handhelds now.
Oh, that's crazy. It's cool. It's kind of the goal, but I can't.
I've gone purely handheld, and it's yeah. I say purely. This is obviously my work laptop, but yeah. When I'm at home, I'm purely handheld. So it's between my Switch 2, and then I have a 1X player X1 Mini. So I'm selling my F1 Pro, and I switched to a kind of like an MSI Claw 8-inch screen.
Yeah, that mini one is nice.
Oh yeah, you got to play around with that thing.
Yeah, no, it's a very it reminded me a little bit of the PS Vista or PS Vita, not but like it's a little bigger, but just like the way that like it held. I miss
to see what Sony comes out with because apparently they're working on a handheld now. That's not the Portal.
Yeah, it's an interesting time. I think that Microsoft. This is the first time I felt like they're a little bit ahead of PlayStation in anything with their handhelds. Like it's a collab with Asus. But
they have the software that's going to go with it too, though. That's probably the biggest thing is like not only they have a distinct handheld that's going to be on the market, but they're going to have distinct software for it, and that's like that's what made the Steam Deck is its operating system and everything like that, and it's works with Steam. Xbox is doing the same thing, but with Game Pass and all that. So I'm interested to see what Sony can cook up.
Yeah,
probably gonna suck and be expensive.
What do you think it's going to be? Do you think they're going to go back? I feel like they'll go back to the PlayStation Portable. I feel like that would be.
I hope that. I don't know. I think that whole PlayStation Portable thing Getting developers on board to make games for that kind of stuff now, I think that'd be hard.
I just mean like for naming. I think I think that they should get like.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, I don't
You know,
know. The Portal itself is like pretty interesting. We
yeah,
straight into the topic of handhelds again. Sorry, everybody.
it's not even on the topic list. It's just
I can't help it. I'm a handheld nut. I can't help it. And there's so many interesting things coming out. Which
oh, it's a great time for it.
well, one X player actually, the X1 Mini, which is what I have. I have the old 8840U one. They, of course, probably a day after I purchased it, released the HX 370 version.
Ooh.
Naturally. So it's everybody's going the way of AMD. I'm curious. That's my biggest curiosity is Sony going to go with an NVIDIA chip, an AMD chip, or an Intel chip? Wouldn't that be interesting if Sony
Samsung
went with an Intel chip?
Samsung shipping the PlayStation just to throw everything off. No, it's
Yeah, like something like that would be really. Everybody seems to do AMD for their like handheld devices, with exception of like MSI with the claw.
well.
So I'd be really interested to see somebody come up with like a
Nintendo is on Nvidia.
What's that?
Nintendo's on Nvidia.
Yes, it's like a special NVIDIA chip. So I'd be really curious to see, because like I don't know, Sony's probably gonna go AMD, but
yeah,
wouldn't that be something if they threw a curveball and somebody went with Intel?
Maybe we'd see Intel stock price go up a bit. They've been having a rough time the last couple of years.
Yeah, that's what happens when you
Fail to innovate for a decade.
Let your enemy get ahead of you. It's
yeah,
like the tortoise and the hare, you know.
Yeah, though AMD's trajectory for CPU has been crazy. If we think back to like the first Ryzen to where we are now, it's been what was that, like 8 years now, and they've completely flipped the script.
And the craziest thing is that socket is still supported.
Yeah, they're new processors.
They literally just released another X3D chip for it, right? Isn't it like a
5500 X3D?
X3D? Yeah, something like that. They just released one.
That's wild.
I want to say, I know it's AM4 and I know it's X3D.
Oh yeah, 6 days ago. Wow.
Yeah, and it was just the fact that it's a new AM4 chip. Like what the hell? Like in 2025.
No,
that's nuts. It makes you really wonder, like the longevity of the AM5 socket. If they could go this far with AM4, how far they're going to take AM5?
Yeah, and like if we're talking about like Intel's issues, like every 2 years you have to get a new motherboard with Intel if you wanted to stay current. That's what they're up against.
Really like what is the reason for it? Because AMD doesn't need to do it. So like, what is their reason for it? And it's pretty obvious, but
yeah. No,
breathe.
Yeah,
you got to think about like what that takes engineering wise to like have to generate a new socket every, like why wouldn't you just engineer one really really good socket?
Yeah, and then support it for a decade. But and even AM4, I don't even know if it was like a good socket because it wasn't even an LGA socket, right? It was a
PGA, right, or BGA?
Yeah.
Or what is it? I don't remember what the difference is. I know it's LGA is like something grid array. I don't know. What kind of socket is it? Let's Google it. Ooh. It's a
LAN.
Okay, it's BGA.
Yeah, it's basically it's just which side the pins are on, if it's on the CPU side or on the motherboard side. So it's been interesting. Yeah.
What will you do next?
Hopefully a good GPU. That's all we can hope for.
Well, I think that's all the major topics, and we rambled there for a little bit, but yeah. What else do you got? Anything else for this week?
I think that's it. No, all we just need is people to tell us what they think it should be called. Vote on the names and stuff, so we can stop just calling it the Jawa podcast.
Or tell us any topics that that we should cover more? Do you want more tech news? Do you want more gaming centric news? Do you want a little bit of both? Because this was much more like a tech centered edition of the podcast. This time we're talking about a lot of tech news, industry stuff, less on the gaming front. So yeah, let us know like what rustles your jimmies.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in, and we'll be back hopefully next week.
Yeah, and maybe at some point we'll do this live. You never know.
I don't know, with my production skills running it, that'd be a test.